Right, so yesterday, at least at the time of writing, the YouTuber Socks Needs Help posted a really interesting video entitled The 10 Worst Items in Deadlock.
And the 10th worst item on the list was Majestic Leap. Man, when they're slandering their goat, but they're low-key right. Anyway, I figured it'd be fun to see what from this video I do and don't agree with, because I have way too many hours on this game, and I think I know all of the items quite well. And just to be clear, this is all my opinion. Nothing I say is fact. If I disagree with something in the video, that doesn't mean Socks is objectively wrong. And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter all that much. We're likely talking about some of the worst items in the game. You can find Socks' video in the description of this one, and you should probably check that one out first, if I'm being honest, just so you can form your own opinions, because, again, you should not be getting your opinions from me, man. I'm just a yapper.
Number 10, Majestic Leap. This item, in my opinion, is fully designed for when you are already doing well in-game. It's the ultimate greed item, and my main problem with it is that its uses are just too few and far between.
Okay, finally getting into it. Yeah, Majestic Leap sucks, unfortunately. Honestly, I think what I disagree with most about your opinion on Leap is the fact that it's only number 10. It's probably like number 3 or 4. It's really only good with heavy air quotes on 4 heroes, and that's Lash, Pocket, Warden, and I guess Bebop. And Pocket is the only hero who I'd consider Leap to actually be a core item. There are just many better movement options, namely Stamina Mastery, and its 45-second cooldown is debilitating. I do think you're approaching the item wrong, though. I'm just gonna be talking like as if this is directly addressed to Socks. I do think you're addressing the item wrong. It's much less of a tool used to escape and much more used to initiate, or more often, especially on the heroes that I play, counter-initiate fights, like with Lash, Pocket, Warden, or Bebop ults. It's generally an item that you would use once a fight has already started to get into the air and then Death Slam, Affliction, or Hyper Beam them. I also like how you said, and for that reason, and now I'm watching the rest of the video like it's a Shark Tank episode, and it just heightened my enjoyment of the video. 10 out of 10 did laugh.
Number 9, Mystic Vulnerability. Honestly, the biggest thing holding this item back from being good is just its numbers.
Okay, yeah, Mystic Vulnerability is just a bad item. There's not a lot to say about it. It pretty much gets outclassed by BRS and Spirit Shredder bullets, 2 T2 items that do extremely similar things. I really hope this one gets a rework like you're proposing, but I won't hold my breath.
Number 8, Blood Tribute. I want to preface this by saying that this item is a lot of fun to use and can be very powerful when built into well. However, the thing that holds this item back is that this item practically needs other items to use it at all. Running Blood Tribute without Leech, Vampiric Burst, or any other type of consistent sustainability item on the gun carries this item is meant for causes minor brain damage. I don't actually mind how much attention this item demands you to give it, but the downsides always feel like more than the upsides if you aren't able to use it at peak efficiency. Now, the 40% debuff reduction while active is nothing to scoff at whatsoever, but I feel like it's important to bring up that all of this item's other perks are handled by other items. The fire rate is less than burst fire, the movement speed can be more reliably gained from other sources, and the passive buffs just aren't enough to justify taking this over anything else. I will say, though, that once you are able to back this item up with enough sustain that the health drain isn't an issue, it can be incredibly powerful on characters like Haze, Wraith, Infernus, and more. And because of that, this item will only be getting the 8th place spot on this list.
Okay, so the main crux of this argument, as I understand it, is that Blood Tribute is, in your opinion, a bad item because it needs other items to function well, which is an argument that I have to fundamentally disagree with. Firstly, on any hero that buys this item, you're already buying something like Bullet Lifesteal anyways, so the fire rate buff it provides kind of helps to cover the self-damage anyways. Sure, as an item by itself, this item isn't super helpful, but nothing in this game exists in a vacuum, so I kind of just have to disagree with the approach that you're taking to this item as a whole.
Number 7. Veil Walker. I really appreciate this item for incorporating the cosmic veils around the map into your gameplay, which, for those of you who don't know, are the one-way, or no-way if they're the ones below the shrines, visual blockers that are placed around the map. The problem with this item is fundamentally the opposite of Majestic Leap, in that its problem is how it really can only be used as an escape tool. Gaining a short burst of invisibility can help heroes like Calico and Drifter initiate a fight, but it's very hard to justify taking this over other, more consistent forms of support, and it's not like those characters struggled with initiating anyways. Also, there's no guarantee that there will be a cosmic veil near enough to you to actually help you in ways that other items would do, and the 20-meter detection range for when you are invisible makes it so that it really isn't that good of an escape tool either. So what is the purpose of this item? It's not good for initiating fights, and it's not good for escaping them either, so all it really exists to do is make jungling go a little bit faster, which, again, other items do better. 7th place might honestly be a little too generous for this item, but oh well.
At the moment, yeah, I generally have to agree that Veil Walker is pretty bad. I think it's just a numbers thing right now. It just needs better numbers and it would be golden, which I think is actually different than the argument you're making, despite the fact that we agree, because you also make the claim that there's no guarantee there will be a cosmic veil near enough to help you, and I'm sorry, but I think this is just a movement or knowledge diff, because veils are pretty much everywhere on the map, and getting to them is not that difficult if you can move correctly. And this is just a nitpick in terms of ordering, but I think Leap is definitely way worse than Veil Walker, even at this current moment, because Leap is playable on 4 total heroes, and it's only viable on Pocket.
Number 6. Ethereal Shift. This might be my hottest take in the video so far, but I do not understand the point of Ethereal Shift. It's a buffing item, but also a sustainability item, but like every time I've seen someone use this item, it only serves to help the enemy team prepare their abilities to get them when they come out of it. Having the buffs it grants is definitely nice, but similarly to Blood Tribute, everything it grants can be gained more reliably from different sources, and the buff only lasts for 5 seconds, which just isn't long enough to justify playing around it. I have seen heroes like Infernus, Victor, Bebop, Calico, and some others get some value out of it, but in my opinion, it's far too much of a commitment to justify taking over the other tier 4 spirit items. Maybe I'm missing something here, but as of right now, I don't see Ethereal Shift as anything other than a mid-tier gimmick item at best.
E-Shift, I think, is honestly just one of the best items in the game. I agree that the buffs it provides are pretty nothing, but E-Shift is an item that can solve pretty much any fed hero like 90% of the time. Yes, it's pricey, but on a high spirit hero, it's quite powerful. You must especially consider the fact that it's most important to be building defensively the further ahead that you are, because you reward your enemies much more for killing you when you're ahead. So yes, it's a win more item in the sense that you're buying it most often when you're ahead, which is why it has such a high price tag, but 5.5 seconds of iframes is a long time, especially for heroes who rely on their cooldowns like Pocket or Calico. And just to be clear, I'm saying especially and not exclusively, because if it was exclusively, then I would agree that it's not that great, because items that only work on a couple heroes, as you've mentioned, aren't good in general. Like, for example, I think Split Shot is a terrible item, but it's really good on Graves exclusively.
Number 5. Restorative Shot. Put simply, there are better options for lane phase sustain than this. On heroes like Haze, Drifter, and Graves, if you're building into her gun, it can be fairly helpful, but I don't see the point in getting this over something else like Healing Rite or Extra Regen. The fact that it's like Mystic Shot in that it activates on your next bullet fired and not your next bullet hit makes it annoying to use. What's that? You missed your first shot on an enemy? Well, too bad. The item is going on cooldown anyway. The healing received from hitting an NPC is absolutely pathetic as well, to an almost insulting degree. I'm aware early game healing isn't supposed to be powerful, but 15 healing is a joke. If this item upgraded into something better later on, I'd like it a little more, but currently, it just doesn't feel like it's worth using over any other early game sustainability items.
Okay, so the Resto Shot slander is where I have to draw the line. There's literally only one bad T1 and it's Goose Egg. Resto Shot is, ironically, not about the healing it deals. It's a gun buff via investment, as it should be one of the first items that you buy. buy. It's not meant to be taken as an item that you get when you need heals. That's what healing rite is for. No, Resto Shot is designed to keep your health topped off for heroes in lane who want to play aggressively and with short range like Abrams. You don't necessarily need either of those things to make use of this item though. Because it's a T1, losing the 400 souls later on when you sell it really means nothing at all. Basically, T1 items hand you a raw stat buff no matter what you're buying. They always make a powerful difference relative to a hero with 0 items, with the sole exception of Golden Goose Egg. I can appreciate the fact that Egg isn't in this list just because it's really new. However, for my personal list, it is, for me, the worst in the game. Now, of course, I'm assuming your argument is that relative to other T1 items, Resto Shot is bad. However, items that heal you in lane are rather powerful as they allow you to play more aggressively and exert a lot of pressure on the opponent. Resto Shot is especially powerful because unlike any other T1 item, it both increases your damage dealt via its raw stats and the investment buff, and heals you periodically. It really has no downsides. And generally, I think purple and orange items in lane are just much more effective than green items, with the exception of Vest and Emblem, because they create more pressure that you can exert on your opponent by way of damage, rather than just having a larger health pool.
Hi there, Jet from the future on a noticeably lower quality microphone. Just to clarify, I understand that you're comparing Resto Shot to other Tier 1 items. However, Tier 1 items are so strong for the reasons that I've just described that I just can't agree with putting any of them except Golden Goose Egg in the bottom 10, because relative to cost efficiency, these items are always strong.
Number 4. Return Fire. Not once in all of my time playing this game have I stopped shooting an enemy after they activated this item, and my most played hero is Haze.
Yeah, Return Fire is just a bad item. This thing really needs a rework. I'd love to see it as an upgrade from Reactive Barrier and no longer being an active item, but instead automatically activating the current active effect with stronger damage because it'd now be a tier 3 or 4, so that it could serve as a counter to someone like Abrams or Venator. And this is also a small nitpick, but Haze doesn't actually care about Return Fire, not because it's so bad. I mean, it is, but that's not why Haze doesn't care about it. It's because it only returns her bullets before the fixation modification. Or rather, each time that she shoots someone, her fixation ability deals damage to them. Return Fire does not return that damage, nor do the bullets that are returned apply fixation, so that's the reason why it feels like nothing when you're playing Haze into it.
Number 3. Express Shot. I have only ever seen this item get value on the amazing gun page build.
Yeah, Express Shot sucks. It was only ever good because of alt fires, but then they gutted that interaction, so in all honesty, I don't really know why this item is even in the game at this point. Although I do gotta be that guy and say there's no such thing as an amazing gun page build, I'm sorry.
Number 2. High Velocity Rounds. This is basically the same story as Express Shot. Who is this item even for? Now that weighted shots no longer slows your bullet velocity, the only reason you'll ever have to take this is to give heroes like Paige and Celeste a little extra range to have an easier time aiming. But other than that, this item just doesn't do anything for you. I will say that it is nice that it eventually upgrades into armor-piercing rounds, which is a very good item. But by the time you need to get armor-piercing rounds to counter the enemy's bullet resistance, 800 souls isn't that much of a discount. I've highlighted here every hero I think could get some amount of value out of this item, with green showing heroes who can reliably get value, yellow represent heroes that might get value out of it but I've never seen it used on them before, and red being heroes that this item is borderline useless on. With only 4 of the 38 heroes getting consistent value from high velocity rounds, I think it's safe to say that this item isn't very good.
High velocity rounds is really powerful. Firstly, because only one T1 item is genuinely bad, as mentioned before, but also because your bullet velocity is what decides, secures, and denies. Yes, technically your position in relation to the soul orb is taken into account, but 90% of the time the deciding factor is your bullet velocity. There's also the raw 8% gun damage boost it provides, and it's actually more than that because of how investment works.
And finally, number 1, Split Shot. The only, and I mean only, use of this item, in my opinion, is to make it easier to aim. This would be helpful if aiming was an actually difficult thing to do in this game, but let's be real, when compared to other hero shooters, it's really not.
Split Shot also just sucks. I think your argument for it pretty much encapsulates everything I could say about it. It seems like it's designed for people with poor aim to use, but people with poor aim are also generally quite new to the game and therefore would be using builds made by better players who aren't going to put this item in their build because they're too good to need it. So this item effectively gets no play, and even if you were to use it, it's really only good on graves. I really don't know why this item exists either. I'm also going to include my bottom 5 items right off the top of my head just to show us what items I think are by comparison worse, or in the case of a couple of the items that you mentioned, what we agree on. So coming in at the 5th worst item in the game, I think healing tempo is the 5th worst, mostly because this is a win more item that generally doesn't even do all that much. It increases the amount that you heal by something like 3% from healing booster, and the extra fire rate it applies to your teammates generally isn't all that helpful. In 4th place is Majestic Leap. This item is terrible. We discussed ad nauseum why. In 3rd is Return Fire. Again, this item's terrible. Secondly is Trophy Collector. Trophy Collector is one that I'm not surprised to see isn't on your list. It's a really deceptive item. I really think a lot of people don't understand why this item is so bad. Generally, Trophy Collector is terrible because it's a 2400 do nothing item. It's generally the first tier 3 item that you buy, and the first tier 3 item that you buy can generally shape how a match goes for you. However, this item doesn't do anything for you, so while everyone else's first tier 3 item is a massive power spike that can help them win a lot of fights, you're not getting that power spike. So relative to everyone else, you're weaker, they're stronger, and you need to get kills to even get value out of this item while being relatively weaker than them. Finally is Golden Goose Egg. A lot of the issues with Golden Goose Egg are the exact same as with Trophy Collector. Pretty much everything I said about Trophy Collector applies to Golden Goose Egg, just except with your first tier 1 item rather than your first tier 3 item. And while you don't need kills to get value out of Golden Goose Egg, it's worse because it just effectively makes you instantly lose your laning phase. And while losing your laning phase isn't that important in the grand scheme of things, players that know how to snowball a lead will absolutely take a massive advantage from you buying Golden Goose Egg. My name is FighterJet, and that was the end of the video. I'm gonna be honest, I'm kind of running out of steam here. I initially wanted my channel to be built off of the more unique perspective that I felt that I had for this game, and I still think that I have that, but I'm running out of ways to express that without sounding like a broken record. I mean, I think over time I'll be able to find more things to talk about as the meta progresses and heroes release, but for now I think I might just start posting things like gameplay breakdowns and other content similar to this video alongside what I normally post. Do you have any thoughts on that? Do you think that there's something that I keep saying that I haven't actually fully explained? I'd love to know.